is a critical issue that affects millions of children worldwide. Children of the time require protection from abuse, from negligence, exploitation, among other things. In recent years, child advocacy has gained importance from the government, the non-governmental organization, and also the media. As a television station, we've seen the importance of child advocacy and we've decided to take it as a matter of discussion today. On today's episode of Amazing Amazon, we'll be talking about child advocacy. And to join us to discuss this is a female lawyer, a child advocate who goes by the name Olamide Akin Alabi. You're welcome to Amazing Amazon. Enough of females being the second folks in the country, enough of females being in the kitchen, in the homes like they used to be in the millennial era. It's a pleasure to have you on today's episode of Amazing Amazon. This is definitely the program for you. Don't today try to turn on. This is the program where we get to motivate everybody, the young, the old, the child, the toddler, the youth, the teenager, the elderly ones, and this is the particular exact program you've been looking for, where we get to bring in female guests. We are not trying to be gender biased, we are trying to listen to what the female folks in the country in different sectors of the economy has to say. My name is Omotoshola Sarimakin, and as usual, I am the host on the program. But today permits me to welcome with greatest pleasure and to introduce my distinguished guest speaker. She is a highly respected female lawyer. She is a child advocate working with UNICEF. She has been working with different sectors all around the world to help advocate for children in different sectors and also to inspire the children. Apart from that, she is also a special project officer at the Women in Successful Career. She is all in all. Apart from that, she's also a member of the UNICEF Young Influencers Network and a Global Youth Ambassadors of the World. I don't want to unveil her yet, but this is where I get to unveil her. She goes by the name Olamide Akin Alabi. Good morning to you. Good day to you.
Good day. Thank you so much, and thank you for the very warm welcome. I do feel at home. Thank you. Thank you.
I must say a very big thank you to you for having us around. Thank you for having us. And honestly, your bio is really cool. I, as a person, I am looking forward to be like you. Yes, I have to go through your page and I'm like, oh wow, this is a whole lot for a human being, a female to be precise.
Thank you. And I think the interesting thing is that we all have people that we look up to.
Okay.
And so you know that even if where you are is seemingly good, you can't stop there. You have to always keep
So at the moment you
planning.
have a role model.
I have role models. I have
Not even one.
I have role models,
Okay.
right? And I have mentors as well. I think it's important for everybody, not just women right now, but everybody to have role models and mentors. Because they give you that picture. They are where you are aspiring to be, right? So they give you that picture and help you sort of navigate how to get there.
Would you by chance want to say hello, hi to one of your role models?
All right, just one.
Okay.
Okay. Mrs. Fabe Ogumekon, thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you do. I'm super grateful to just really learn from you, learn with you. In this social development sector. I also want to thank Raquel Daniels. Thank you so much, Mom. It's been a pleasure just learning from you how to navigate the children development sector. Thank you so much.
I'm very sure they're super proud of you right now. Well, let's go straight into the talking point today. We'll be talking basically about, you'll be talking about child advocacy, we'll be talking about the law industry as a whole. Now, I'd like to start with the law industry. You are a female, and in the female industry of lawyers, there are different association of young lawyers, association of female lawyers, and all of that. Now, what really inspired you to pursue a career in law, and how did you get started?
Interesting question. So, actually, I remember that when I was younger,
Okay.
right? I grew up in a family that encouraged us to be very expressive.
Was mom or dad a lawyer by chance?
No, actually.
Okay.
That's the interesting part, and I'll come to it. Okay. I'll come to it. So, but they did encourage us to be very expressive, right? And then I would hear things like, Olamide, you're very vocal and you like to read. You should study law. And so it just kept coming consistently. You're very vocal. You like to read. You should study law. And so I'm like, okay, not bad. And then I also read John Grisham's novels, right?
I love him a lot.
I mean, great. I used to read a lot of his books, and I liked how he portrayed the legal profession. You know, just the analytical mind of a lawyer, being able to think through processes and determine, okay, what's the best way out. Yeah. I really loved how he portrayed lawyers, and I'm like, okay, it seems like the legal profession is actually interesting. Yeah. Why not? And so I started considering the legal profession the more. And then along the line, I also realized that my grandfather, of blessed memories, also wanted a lawyer in the family, and apparently at different intervals, my uncles and aunties, you know, I think even my dad himself also just tried, but for some reason it didn't work. I was like, okay, let's do this, let's do this. And so I didn't get into school. I didn't get into the university the first year for law, but by the second year I did. I got into the University of Ibadan to study law, and it was a very interesting process. It had, of course, its very challenging times. It was only known very all-encompassing. I think that's the word. It was all-encompassing. And then, you know, after University of Ibadan, you know, then you go to law school. And that on its own is a rigorous process. I have come to respect everyone who goes through the Nigerian law school. It is a rigorous process. I can imagine. And something that I hold dear is the fact that I got to speak with my grandfather, you know, on the day of my call to bar. And I hold it dear because I was hoping that after call to bar, I would go home to see him and take a picture with him in, you know, my wig and gown and everything, but that didn't happen because he passed on shortly after.
So rest in peace.
Amen. But I mean, I'm very glad that I was able to speak with him extensively on the day of my call to bar. He prayed for me, and I even had it recorded. So I think sometimes when I just remember that moment, I'm like, okay, well, at least he got to see it happen in his lifetime.
Well, I think I've been a female lawyer by now. I tried it countless times as a student, like 2-3 times. It's either one case or the other. You know how JAMB was difficult. But then I passed well. But I think I chose Ekiti State University. I'm not trying to talk down the university now, but there's a difference between in the cut of post-JAMB score. There's a difference between indigene and non-indigene.
Okay.
So I
the quota system that we're talking about.
The quota system. So I passed for indigene, but because I was non-indigene, my cut-off mark didn't beat. So I tried again the second year. I was given sociology. Then I was like, okay, I'm wasting years. Let's just get it done with English. And here I am now. Sorry,
before we go, but you do enjoy what you do right now?
Oh yeah, I really do enjoy what I do. And honestly, I was thinking when I graduated then, like, do I pursue a career in law? And in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe let's just leave law for now. Maybe that was not what I really wanted to do, and I just focused on this career. It's been really great. Many years down the line, it's been really sweet.
I think it's interesting how we're able to just take what life throws at us and just make the best out of the situation.
Because I really wanted to be an international lawyer. I wanted to be outspoken. I wanted to be a motivational speaker. I wanted to do all of pro bono cases. No, I didn't want to stay. I was all out. I loved Gani Faroyi because I hailed from Ondo. And he was, so it was like a robot. I never met him in person. I think he died before I was giving birth to him. But I love the fact that, he hailed from my town, and I just wanted to be the next female Gani Faroyi. Can't it be like that? Come on.
I mean, but you're nailing it.
And now, so still in the legal industry, what did you see, or what do you see as the biggest trends or changes in the legal profession in the first coming years?
So in terms of trends, we already see it happening, to be honest. Law is generally a very evolving profession, right?
Evolving.
Yes.
The constitution does not change. What involves?
What evolves really is the component of law. So now we have things like marine law, right?
Okay.
We have things like data privacy. We have cybersecurity. And as these things come up,
Litigation courses, litigation law.
litigation has always been there. Litigation is a part of law, right? So it's the process of when you go to the court and then you do the whole process. That's the whole process that is called litigation, right? So, but as trends come up, right, we have AI now that is really, really topping the charts. We need lawyers that would be able to couch out the nuances, as it were, of these areas. And so that's why I say law is a very evolving, what's it called? Evolving profession. Now the Constitution, of course, there are times when the Constitution needs to change, but it's not even good for the economy to have a Constitution that keeps changing. There needs to be a what's it called, a process in place now before that happens. And so in terms of trends, what I see really would be more increase in data privacy, lawyers in the data privacy space, lawyers in the cybersecurity space. And now that, we have virtual work, remote working, there would be, I know, right? There would have to be laws in place to sort of regulate that process as well. On the part of the employers, on the part of the employees. It's important to have that law because especially in Nigeria, what we do have right now is more of, physical working law processes.
Well, one of the reasons I love COVID-19 was the mobile court. I've never heard of it, but I've seen it in movies. I've seen it happening in Lagos. Really?
So, but there's always been mobile court. Actually, I think it just wasn't. Yeah, there's always been
popular. Then.
Yes, there was more awareness about it during the COVID-19 pandemic. But there's always been mobile courts. Yes, I think those are some of the trends that we would begin to see definitely in terms of the legal space, and it's already happening. To be honest, it's really already happening.
Now, going by your bio, you are also the project manager of WISCA, which is Women in Successful Careers. What are some of the key skills that you think are necessary for success in project management? And how did you get there? How were you nominated? Were you in the comfort of your room and someone just called you, or your work, your career, your resume, your CV spoke for you?
Interesting. So yes, I am the Special Project Officer for Women in Successful. So in terms of skills needed for project management, I would say that they're industry skills, right? So if you're in the tech, in the tech space, there are certain skills that you need, right? There are certain industry-specific skills, industry-specific knowledge that you need in the tech space. It could be some knowledge of coding, although there's like non-code and code tech,
right?
I
was about to say that.
So you just need some specific industry knowledge, to be able to navigate your way through it. If you're in the oil and gas sector, you definitely need some specific industry knowledge as well. However, there are some skills that cut across regardless of the industry that you are in, and these are like green skills or soft skills as it were, that are particular to.
What are basic 5 skills you feel like every youth should be able to possess, regardless of the industry you find yourself? These are like the basic skills that should be at the top bottom and the lower bottom of your CV. What are those skills you think every youth should have, regardless of the gender?
Okay, so I would say that communication skills, very important. You need to be able to communicate who you are. You need to be able to communicate what you do. You need to be able to communicate what your organization does to different stakeholders. That is very, very important. Written, oral, you definitely need communication skills. If you do not talk about what you do, if you do not
know,
people would know. If you don't talk about what your organization does, if you don't talk about the impact that you're making, people would not know. So it's definitely important.
Eloquency is a different word on its own. It thinks not too many people are eloquent. Some people are introvert to the core. They can barely speak in church. They can barely introduce themselves to a meet and greet. They just love being let me just hide somewhere. Let them not see me.
So yes, there are some responsibilities that affords you the opportunity to work behind the curtain, right? However, in terms of basic, okay, so I also wanted to point out that in my opinion, eloquency is different from having like general communication, basic communication skills,
correct,
right? So the ability for you to, no matter how introverted you are, at some point in time, you need to communicate, right? You need to let people know what's going on in your mind. You need to let people know your processes. So in the workspace, right, you need to be able to understand when to step out of your natural habitat of being introverted to being able to speak up. Now, when you speak up, you can then go back to being your introverted self. But there are certain instances where you can't lie behind your
introverted nature.
Exactly. You need to step up, you need to show up, and you need to show up well. Right? And I think that, you know, to an extent, you know, everybody has a bit of introvertedness in them, right? But just the ability to step up and show up. I was going to also answer your question as regards skills for project management, and I think that one of them would also be stakeholder management. Right, and this is really critical when it comes to handling any project, because you need to understand the concerns, the interest of everyone who has a stake in the project. You need to be able to communicate with them. Exactly. You need to be able to communicate with them and let them understand how the project is going, let them understand what you see in the project, and also address their concerns as well. So I think that is very important. I also think that strategic thinking is very crucial, actually. Just the ability for you to be able to think about the objective or the goal. What's the aim of this project? What does this project want to achieve? What are the best steps? Or we could start with what are the steps to achieve this. Now, out of those, what are the steps? What are the best steps? Which one of these steps would take us to
important steps?
Exactly. Which one of those would help us, you know, achieve the goal and achieve it optimally? So I think that is a very important skill as well in project management. Of course, you have like organizational skills. You need to be able to prioritize. There's so many things that comes with a project, right? But you need to be able to prioritize per time, which is more important. What is the more important thing to do right now? Okay, there are 10 things on my radar. Which is the most important? Which is urgent? So these are the kind of questions that you need to begin to ask yourself also as anyone who wants to go into the project management space, just to be able to stand out.
Just the economics to say opportunity cost, and then so now. Okay, let me speak to our audience. In case you're just joining us, the conversation is just about to get interesting. We've been speaking with a brilliant, excellent, intelligent female lawyer, child advocate, among different juicy things in our bio. Now, I want you to mention maybe one or two, or as much as you can mention, some notable examples of the innovative projects that you've led that has had or have impact on children's right of advocacy. That is where, before we go into that, what made you focus on child advocacy? Out of different things, why do you choose to focus on child advocacy?
So I like that question. I really do like the question, and you can see I'm all smiles already.
Yeah, I can see that.
So what made me focus on child advocacy? I think first is that there are certain things that happen in life that when you then reflect, you are able to connect the processes together, right? I noticed that right from childhood. I used to say that when I was a child myself, I was a Sunday school teacher, right?
Yeah.
And they, you know, in church, they permitted me to do this, and there were a lot of older people, but they just let me, they gave me that free rein.
They trusted you with that.
Exactly, they gave me that free rein. Of course, there were adults there in the supervising and interjecting from time, and I really just loved it. I loved the opportunity to help children make better decisions, even when I was a child myself. Just being able to think through things, helping you see that there is a better way, right? And then I remember that my very first job out of secondary school was also in
A nanny?
No, I wasn't a nanny. No.
Okay.
I was one of the project officers Bible Center, and what we do there is we create experiences for children. Right, we have different trips that we can go to within a confined space. It's just creating that experience for children to be able to think, what is a safari? You know, what does it mean to be, what kind of language do they speak in South Africa? Right, so those are the kind of things that we were able to curate, you know. And then we also told stories from the Bible, and we engage them on what are the lessons here, how can you interpret it to your everyday life? Although, of course, we broke it down for children. And so,
but why children are not teenagers? Or the young adults?
Okay, so I should say that according to the law, right, anyone below the age of 18 is a child.
Oh, okay.
Right. So what that means is that teenagers
from 3 to 17, from 0 to 17,
from 0 to, yes, are all children. So of course that means that they are teenagers, right? Although, you know, teenagers don't want to be called children.
They're not Gen Z.
Please. Please, teenagers don't want to be called children. So but the broad term really is children. Right. So I did that, and then I remember that there was a point in time when I was having a conversation with a senior person, and he was asking me what I wanted to do, and I kept telling him that I wasn't sure. Yes, I'm studying law, but I don't see myself in corporate law, right? And I also don't see myself doing litigation. But I didn't know, you know, actually, yes. I'm like, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so he kept probing, what's your passion? Where does your passion lie? Nice. And then I mentioned, I really do love engaging children.
Did you have any important factor in the economic, obviously?
No, actually, I at that point in time.
Okay, then I think I have to start asking a source of income.
At that point in time, I didn't. I mean, I have a 9 to 5.
Oh.
Yes, so that's what I do with Whisker. So, when we had that conversation, he then made me realize that, Olamide, there is a link between your drive for children and law. You need to find it and you need to connect it. Right. And then he asked me, have you read about the child's right law? And I'm like, no. I said, okay, I think that's a good place to start. And so I left that conversation with you know, an action point. I left the conversation thinking, okay, so I should really go and study the Child's Right Act and how it relates. And that was really how I started, essentially. I was able to just study the Child's Right Act, see that, okay, there actually is a connection between my passion for children and law. And then I also realized that, you know, working in all of the spaces. So while I was in the University of Ibadan, I was a part of the Women's Law Clinic. That is an arm of the Faculty of Law, where you have where you have on-hand experience with cases that have to do with children and women as well. And I got to see real time, you know, how there are different levels of abuse that children go through, not just physical, psychological. There are different levels of abuse. In addition to this, I know that it hurts me whenever I see children out of school. I'm like, why are you not in school? It hurts, it literally breaks my heart when I see children who look hungry, when I see children uncared for, when I see children, you know, out on the streets, not well dressed. And I remember that when I was, you know, in secondary school, I started taking out of my own money in that sense to pay for children's meals.
Whoa.
Yes, I remember doing that when I was in the university as well. If you tell me I need to write an exam, and I would gather my friends, I would raise the money for you and give it to you. So it's something that I have always been doing. I didn't just start doing it. It's something that I had always been doing. And with each step, I'm like, what more can be done? How can we make the society see that the more attention we pay to children, the better the society will be? You know, if we're able to reduce the number of out-of-school children, it would do a lot to the economy. If we're able to reduce the number of children who are on the street hawking, all those things would do a lot, right? And at the end of the day, you know, when you talk of legacy, you leave legacies for children. Right? You leave legacies for children. So if you're saying you're leaving legacies, where exactly are you leaving legacies for? What are you building to take up with the next roles, you know, leadership roles? What are you building to take up roles in corporations? And this really is just my drive, being able to mold children, being able to help them make better decisions, being able to help them become better citizens. And I think that's where my passion really lies. I can sense
that you're so compelling. Talking about it, I was like, oh, can I grab tissue paper and tissue? Well, listeners, like I said earlier, listeners and viewers, the conversation is just about to get more juicy. But we have to go on a short break right now to give you some tips, and when we return, the program continues. Please stay with us. No, yes, staying tuned. This is Amazing Amazon reaching you live from the Lagos studios of Captain Television. Just before we went on that short break, we've been speaking with a female lawyer, we've been speaking with a child rights advocate, we've been speaking with, I don't want to go on, I know it's about again, but then I forgot to mention something the other time, that she's also an author. And we are going to dig deep into her writing career now. So now, glad to have you back on the show again, second time.
Thank you.
Okay, now you wrote a couple of books, and I want to just talk about basically two or one. So, as the author of Child Rights Act Simplified, how did you get your legal background contribute your ability to simplify complex legal concepts and make them more accessible to wider audience? I was scrolling through your LinkedIn, and I saw that you kept on emphasizing on the book, and you talked about a game that you invented. How did it relate? How did you think of? I used to think it used to be, oh, let's go to a orphanage and donate to it. Oh, let's gather some kids around and be paying their fees. Why did you take yours to the next level? Like, you're literally raising the bar from here to there.
So I should probably start by saying that there's a multi-stakeholder approach when it comes to childcare. So while paying for children's tuition fees, you know, giving them access to education is one part. Ensuring that they have access to healthcare is another part. Ensuring that they are well fed is another part, because children who are not well fed would have difficulty learning in school, right? These things have to go pari passu, right? So it is indeed a multi-layered approach, right? So everyone involved in this very, very crucial aspect to child development. And for me, I also personally want to, or what I do is I approach it as well, knowing that it is a multi-layered approach. I try to see how can we engage other stakeholders in this, right? What more can be done? Okay, how many parents know about child's right, right? How many parents, or how many school authorities, guardians, how many stakeholders largely do not repeal the idea that children have rights?
So are you saying children have a right in Nigeria or in the world?
Absolutely, children have a right in Nigeria.
Oh,
children have a right.
Lecture us on that. I'm not sure many people know about
children have rights in Nigeria. Children have rights all over the world, right? Children are human beings, and every human being has a right. Every human being has fundamental human rights. And this also accrues to children, right to survival and development. It simply means that there should be systems in place that ensures that children don't die at childbirth, that ensures that children, you know, are able to grow past the age of 5, and are healthy. Most of the child mortality rates are for children, 5 and below.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to understand that preserving the life of children also very important. Children have a right to dignity, right? Children should know that nobody can just touch my body anyhow, right? No, you don't touch me there. Don't tell me to shush. I'm not shushing, right? Children have a right to education. It's important. Education it's a right, it's not a privilege.
Yeah.
It is something that is needed to enhance the society. It is something that is needed even for their own processes as well. Being able to have an elevated manner of thinking, being able to have a firmer thought process to be able to address issues, to be able to think about what next steps do I need to take. Children have this right, so indeed children have rights, and children all over the world also have rights as well. And so for me, I've always been someone who is very playful, right? And what I then did was to see how is there a way we can make law interesting? Is there a way we can sort of spice up law as it relates to children? Okay, Olamide, if it were you, what are the things that will attract you? Now, like I said, I love reading books.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, we can break this down. And remember, I also said that I used to read John Grisham's novels, and I'm like, I love the way he just portrayed the legal profession. So in all of this, and also just speaking with people who are like way older, senior people in the development sector as well, I started developing the idea of writing a book for children. It's a very colorful book. I'd get to show you that as well. It's a very colorful book, and it explained the fundamental rights of children. It's a book that if parents pick it and, while you're just whiling away time, you could just decide to read it to know more about the rights of your children, to know more about what you as a parent owe your children, and also have an understanding of how to explain rights to children while also explaining responsibilities. So that's something that I do. You don't just explain rights to people, you also explain to them their responsibilities as well. While you have a right to education as a child, it is your responsibility to sit down in class and learn.
The Northerners have a lot to learn. They have a whole lot to learn.
I believe that soon it would even out in all regions in Nigeria. But it is your responsibility to sit down to learn. It is your responsibility to do your assignments. Right? Do your assignments by yourself. It's your responsibility to submit your assignment. Don't just do it and leave it in your bag. It's your responsibility to submit your assignment. Okay, so while you have a right to health care, it is your responsibility to use your drugs as a child. Don't hide it in the chair.
I feel like you are a great mother.
Aww. Thank you. I mean, when that time comes. Definitely when the time comes. So
now, the concept of game-inspired mentoring sessions. I'm very sure there was a lot of research, there was a lot of thinking, there was a lot of, am I sure I want to do this, or should I just back out now? How were you able to scale through all of those, and how are these sessions, or how did these sessions empower and encourage young people, particularly overcoming obstacles among the females and the child?
Okay, so the game-inspired mentoring session is actually a very interesting and different kind of mentoring opportunity. So how it works is we pair a child, we pair 3 children, 3 to 4 children with an adult, with the mentor in this case. And while you play the board game, you have conversations. We have a manual for the board game as well. But this manual is for the mentors. So the mentors read the manual just to be able to have a better understanding of kind of questions that they can address.
Lovely.
So the board game addresses issues like bullying. It addresses issues like low self-esteem. It addresses issues like I'm having difficulties with a certain subject in school. It addresses issues like I don't know, I don't think I'm good enough You know, so the board game is holistic in addressing issues pertaining to children, but these issues are also embedded in their rights. Okay, so if you say that a child has a right to survival and development, to be able to survive and develop,
you still need something.
You need to have a certain level of esteem, self-esteem, right? You know, so all those things are intertwined, they are ingrained in each other. And so what then happened with the mentoring session? And yes, you're right to say that, you know, there was a point where I'm like, I've not seen this done before. Do you really want to go ahead with it? But I do have a community of people, and I'm grateful to them. I'm grateful to my amazing friends, you know, Oluwa Shei Fomi Daudu, Oluwa Longe, Timilade Adela Kon, Tedro, Allah Tedro Akedro. I'm really
it's awesome video for
you know, and you know, Chisom, really amazing people who are always reminding me that you can't get it done. And my siblings, very, very supportive, you know. So this community of people really would keep telling me, Lamide, it's possible to get this done. It's possible to do this. Think about the end goal. Think about the end goal. And when we executed the very first one, we did that in Ibadan and in partnership with a couple of organizations. The feedback was amazing.
Great.
I'm talking about sessions where you are playing a board game, you are having deep conversations, and children are crying. And even the mentor is teary. And children are stopping to take down notes. All this is happening while you are playing a board game. That's just how
mind-blowing.
That's how, you know, that's how much thought went into curating the board game and ensuring that it is a conversational, educational, interactive piece that can help children navigate the next stage.
Now I wish I had it when I was a child, because growing up as a child, I had low self-esteem, and it took a really long time before I got out. Till my high school days, I started this low self-esteem. When I got to uni, that was when I was now starting to bring up my head. As a child, I was intelligent, I was brilliant, but maybe it's the type of parents I had. Elite, they don't praise children. I kind of don't like it. I wanted to be praised. I wanted my parents to tell me that, oh, you're doing well. I wanted them to tell me that, oh, you're the third in your class. Wow, that's great. My parents are the type of people that would tell you, if you're the first in your class, my parents would tell you, why can't you be the first overall? Why can't you be the first in the whole school? Why can't you be the best graduating? So in my head, I'm like, I feel like I'm not that intelligent, but I feel like if I was tutored a lot, if I was mentored a lot, I would be that person. So I wish I had this board session, because I wasn't bullied, because I've always been the assistant class captain, the class captain. I've always been the top of my class. I looked like a boy. So the fact that I looked like a boy growing up till like uni days, till I started making my hair, I wanted everybody to see me as a female and associated me like a female. Because I grew up in a family where we're all females and we didn't have any male figure, so I was looking like the male figure in my family, and I didn't like it. I wanted to be feminine, not masculine, feminine. Come on. So I think that game would have worked for me. But how do you intend to take these games to schools, and how do you make school principals accept this game as maybe an extracurricular activity? Because it helped me, it built me. When I was in high school, there was an extracurricular activity every Friday, and I think I was in debate society, debating and newscasting. So I started my career from casting news on the assembly every Friday morning, and it was awesome. But I was paid because the year I passed out, because we just passed out secondary school, it died.
Okay, so just to clarify, what died?
The casting of news on the assembly.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I'm sure there's still extracurricular activity, debating and writing class, club, I mean. But why did it die at that point? Maybe people were not too bold enough to bring to the old school. Maybe there was no teacher to take it up. But how do you intend to take this board game interactive session to schools, public and private schools? How do you intend to make the principals accept them? Because principals nowadays are like mini gods. When I was serving as a club member, I was in a nap tip. I tried to go to schools once in a month to interact with people and all of that. It didn't go well with some principals. They always give me street rules, don't do this, don't do that. So how do you intend to push this your game to the principals, the schools, people on the streets, churches with children classes and all of that?
So I would say that, thank you so much for that question. And it's also just driving. It's also where our head is at, you know. And when I say our head, I'm talking about myself, you know, my organization, Every Child Matters, and also really just my community, because I don't work alone. I do have a community of people that really just keep pushing me. And we started that journey already, actually. We have started the journey of taking these things to schools and really just engaging school stakeholders as well in buying into the idea. And so far we've had very positive reception of the board game, really. We're also very mindful to be able to put structures in place. Yes. So if these interactions are happening between a mentor and children, we want to also be there to, you know, just guide the process. We want to, because before we give the board game out, or before any session, we ensure that we train these mentors, right? We take them through what we expect of them. We give them the manual, read it, understand it, you know. So all this process, I think what we're doing right now is just control, just to ensure that it's not just everybody, you know, that can mentor children, ensuring that it's the right set of people, ensuring that there's a structure in place. But I can assure you that we're definitely gradually getting into that school space. And the schools that we've already gone to as well are very, very receptive. And I'm very welcome to partnership opportunities, just to ensure that children have more opportunities for this. And I've gotten a couple of grants as well that have given me access to, you know, distribute the board games for free to people in orphanages, and also people who we know that would really find value in the game.
At what age, I've been dying to ask this question, at what age do you get to tell a child about sex? At what age do you get to educate a child about sex? Is it before a period as a female child, or after, or as a boy before their wet dreams? Or what age should sex education start for a child?
So, I mean, if you're already talking about a child, a girl child, you know, going through her menstrual cycle, that's late. That's too late.
Okay.
That's extremely late. So I would not say it is age dependent, because the maturity level of children really differs. I would say that as soon as your child is beginning to get aware of himself, as soon as your child is beginning to, that point where you know that your child is beginning to get, you know, self-aware, self-conscious, right? That is the point when you need to begin to talk to this child about sex, about sex education.
So at that point, what do you tell the child? How do you say it in a way that it doesn't sound like an experience they really look forward to? You know, kids of nowadays are, I don't know what to say about them. Their physical attributes, they are thinking, I think I was opportune to grow our last child at home, and at that age, she could not read, but she can operate a system very well. She can operate the TV very well. She knows where the computer on the system is. She knows where the connect Wi-Fi on the system is. And she can't read at that age. And if at that age, then, I'm talking about like 2007, 2023.
Okay, you're right. You're right in saying that we definitely need different approaches in addressing salient issues with children. Call it what it is. Don't. Your breast is your breast. Your penis is your penis. Don't call it don't call it cookies. Don't call it biro. Call it what it is. And in doing so, what you're doing is you are helping the child. You're helping the child understand his or her body parts, so that when people come and then they say they want to touch your breast, can I touch you there? Where is there? My breast? No, my breast is my private part. People shouldn't touch me there. Right? But by the time you begin to, you know, call it different names, it's a cookie, and then you know, in fact, why I think why cookie keeps coming to my head is because during one of the sessions I had in engaging a professional in sex education for children, she shared a story of a child whose mother called her vagina a cookie, and then the child would report to her class teacher and say, "My uncle ate my cookie."
Oh.
Right. And the teacher will be like, "But your
Cookies
cookies
are
in
meant to be
your cookies are even in your bag." So the teacher will check the bag and be like, "But your cookies are in the bag." And she'll be like, you know, child's play. Like, you know, the child is playing. Until one day, the mother was able to have like an interaction with the teacher, and the teacher jokingly said, "Oh, your daughter is always saying that Uncle so and so, or sorry, Mr. so and so is eating a cookie." But whenever I check her lunch bag, I always see a cookie there. Very, very, you know, just as a matter of conversation. And in that moment, the mother was like, "Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I called my daughter's vagina her cookie." And so the girl has actually been speaking up. But because it was a wrong terminology, there was nobody to help her. And so this is one of the reasons why we encourage parents, don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
Tell children what it is. Tell them why they should not be touched there, as much as their maturity, of course, can take. So you might not break it down into the granular details, but let them know what parts are private and what parts are public, right? They can shake your hand, okay? They can touch your shoulder. Don't let anybody touch anywhere apart from your shoulder. Right? So these are the kind of conversations that you should have with children, right? And I know that growing up, my parents used to share this story of how, you know, not even my parents alone, even older people would say how that their parents would tell them, if they shake you as a girl, if they shake you, you are pregnant. And so girls do not want to, don't shake me, please.
I had to go to girls in secondary school because my parents believe, oh, the moment she's in a close contact with a guy, she's going to definitely get pregnant. Now, what plans do you have for children advocacy? What plans do you have for it?
So, we are still, one is to keep creating awareness about child's rights and just changing Africa's perception of, or doing what we can on a consistent basis to change the general perception of child's rights. To say that when you talk about the right of a child, you're not talking about a child being rebellious. No. As a human being, you have rights. Right? And the fact that you have this right doesn't make you rebellious. No. Right? Because you know that with rights also comes responsibilities. And so when we talk about child's rights, we're not saying that you should begin to, we're not giving children a leeway to become rebellious. No, we're saying that there is a bare minimum that the society, that parents, guardians owe these children. And we're talking about rights to things like clean water, right to access to health, right to access to education, right to family care. You know, these are the kind of rights that we're talking about that children have in terms of fundamental human rights. And so it's to really create awareness about this and also help stakeholders understand their part, their responsibility in ensuring that these rights are in place, in ensuring that these systems are in place to promote these rights.
Well, since we're talking about child advocacy, I want us to really go into a different aspect of child advocacy. We feel like these children have access to social media right now and they see almost everything that happens on social media. Even if they can't see it, maybe their fellow poopy in school, their church friends and all of that, mosque friends. I'm sorry, I've been saying church. Probably they've been saying it to them, peer pressure and all of that. How will a parent, just like we were saying behind the camera, how will a parent try to have control of what the child watches, what the child sees, who the child speaks with, what they say? Because you are a child too, you are 18. I feel like I have a right over you. And you know, children of nowadays, They don't want to be caged. They don't want to be talked to. They want to, oh, mommy, I'm a child. I'm a teenager now. I can do what I want to do. How will a parent help at certain levels? Starting from the child, mother of a 0-year-old child till age 1 to age 2 to age 3 and on and on.
I would say the first thing is parents and guardians, even school authorities, religious bodies, they need to be careful, very mindful about the content that these children are exposed to. Okay, what are these children watching? What are they feeding their eyes on? In fact, what kind of music are they listening to?
How can they help block it? Our time is fast spent. Of multi-choice now. I'm not trying to praise or advertise for them, but we know that, okay, each time they even talk about that, okay, a particular
Parental
program,
guidance.
parental guidance, yes, that's the word.
Okay,
you
so
can block it.
To answer your question, then there are apps that they can use. I know for a shorty that Google, for instance, has a family link, and this family link enables parents and guardians to sort of have an oversight of what their child watches or what their word watches in that sense. So yes, that's one. I'm very certain that Apple has it as well. I also do believe that Microsoft has it as well. So if parents can really just watch out for kind of apps that would help them have some level of control over the things that their children or their word over what they watch, then that would also go a long way.
Just in one line, what word of advice do you have to everybody out there, the female folks and child growing up?
To the female folk, so women out there, I would say that, and I'm really talking about women my age, really, I would say you should learn to show up, right? And show up well. There are times when you don't have an opportunity to create a second impression. So you see, every opportunity that you get, ensure that you know for a certainty that you gave it your 100. Don't be, every opportunity also that you get to serve, serve with the whole of your heart, serve genuinely, right? And then in terms of networking and just building professional relationship, I think the first thing is you should always ask yourself, how can I be of value to the person I want to network with? What can I do to make this person better? And it's really sometimes in the simple things and it's in the thoughtful things. I think that using these tools help. Also get yourself a mentor. It might be an informal mentor, a direct mentor, an indirect mentor, but get yourself somebody that you're somebody who you can look up to, right? And somebody whose steps you can follow, whose steps you can watch, observe, and follow, and just give you that leverage, that extra leverage that you need.
Honestly, I say very big thank you to you. Olamide Akin Alabi. It's a unique name. It's a compact name. I'm like, okay, I like it. Thank you very much for having us around. And this is a wrap on the interview segment on Amazing Amazon for this week. We have to bring you some quotes from women. On today's episode, we're having Chimamanda and a host of others. Let's take a short break to be back with the quote, and also we'll be wrapping up. that's it on today's episode of Amazing Amazon. I hope you've learned one or two things. Do not forget to be the best at whatever field you find yourself. Don't give up and be consistent. My name is Omotoshola Sarimakin saying God bless Nigeria. See you next time.